Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to have you here for today's explainer. We are diving straight into the Class 9 English book, Kaveri, specifically looking at a really captivating chapter called Twin Melodies. You know, if you're a fan of a great story packed with secret passions, intense family drama, and that classic clash of generations, well, you are in exactly the right place. Let's just jump right in, shall we?
Okay, so to make sure we totally grasp the story and, get you ready for any textbook questions, here's our quick roadmap. First, we've got an introduction to Twin Melodies. Then we'll follow the play's natural three-act structure. Act 1 is the secret, Act 2 is the confrontation, and Act 3 is the resolution. Finally, we'll wrap the whole thing up with the core themes explored.
Let's kick things off with our introduction to Twin Melodies and meet the bands.
We're dropped right into the action here. Picture this. We're in Iqbal's room, right? And it's covered in these awesome posters of famous Indian flute players. Suddenly, the room just fills with the super energetic sounds of an Indo-Western fusion piece as these four friends practice together. You can practically feel their focus. They share this intense passion for blending totally different musical styles into something completely new. Now, your textbook actually makes a really specific point here. It notes that the scene opens to this beautiful fusion piece in its crescendo. So what's a crescendo? Well, it's a piece of music that just gets louder and louder. And the playwright uses this brilliantly. It doesn't just describe the volume, it shows us the dramatic tension. It's like a giant neon sign from page 1 telling us, hey, a massive emotional peak is coming. Okay, looking at the actual makeup of this band is absolutely crucial, especially for checking off one of your key textbook exercises. We've got our main character, Shruti, on the violin, Iqbal plays the flute, Avinash is on the tabla, and Peter plays the keyboard. Do you see what's happening there? Half the instruments, the flute and the tabla, are deeply traditional Indian instruments, and the other half, the violin and keyboard, bring in that Western vibe. That right there is the literal fusion in their Indo-Western group. Moving right along to Act 1, The Secret, and Shruti's Dilemma. Now that we know the band, we have to look at the central conflict. Shruti is hiding a massive secret from her dad, Guru Nabeen Sharma. And Nabeen isn't just any dad. He is the principal of the Sangeetika Music School. He's a strict traditionalist who firmly believes that classical Hindustani music, complex ragas and alaps, is the only music worth playing. But on the flip side, we have Shruti's true passion, her Indo-Western fusion orchestra. So we've got two completely different musical worlds about to collide under one roof.
This creates a ton of anxiety for Shruti. She actually tells her friends she's terrified her father will consider her playing Western tunes as a desecration of the violin. Now, desecration literally means showing disrespect towards something sacred. Shruti loves her dad, right? She cares so much about his opinion. She isn't just scared of getting yelled at. She's genuinely terrified of breaking his heart by disrespecting the art form he considers absolutely sacred.
But thankfully, Shruti has some really great friends in her corner. Iqbal gently reminds her that, hey, a little scolding isn't the end of the world. Actually, he jokes that he has a little scolding for breakfast every single day. So, hyped up by Iqbal and Avinash, Shruti finally makes a brave decision. She tells them, you're right, guys, I guess it is time to bite the bullet. She's finally going to face her fears and confess to her dad about their upcoming concert. Which brings us to Act 2, the confrontation and the clash of melodies. So Shruti timidly reveals she's playing in an Indo-Western fusion concert next week. And man, Nabeen's reaction is swift and it is harsh. He literally tells her, to drown your individual style in the hubbub of an orchestra is hardly a wise choice. He goes on to say he never, ever thought his own child would lose her sense of musicality. He's just so disappointed that he abruptly leaves the room saying he has nothing left to say. Ouch. The tension right now is completely palpable. Shruti's practice might literally go down the drain. This actually sets up a fantastic check your understanding question straight from the textbook. Will Shruti's father go to the rehearsal? I want you to really pause and think about this. Knowing his stubbornness and his strict loyalty to classical traditions, what do you honestly think he'll do?
Let's find out in Act 3, the resolution and the plot twist.
The scene shifts back to Iqbal's house. Shruti is totally heartbroken, convinced this is going to be her final practice with the band. But then, absolute shocker, her father Nabeen and her mother Leela walk in. Peter graciously lets them watch. And what happens next is this brilliant piece of stage direction, a silent performance. The characters practice in mime. That means we only see their actions on stage, completely without sound. It's such a cool trick because it focuses all of our attention on the pure emotion of the musicians and the parents' reactions as they watch.
After this silent performance, Shruti thanks her parents for coming. And then, boom, Shruti's mother, Leela, drops the ultimate plot twist. She dives into their family history and reveals that Nabeen's own father, Shruti's grandfather, was a super traditional vocalist. And when Nabeen chose to play the Western violin instead of using his voice, his father viewed it as a total betrayal. The strict traditionalist we see today, yet Nabeen was actually the musical rebel of his own youth. Crazy, right?
To really make Nabeen's past rebellion hit home, Leela uses a very specific word. She explains that Nabeen's family of vocalists painstakingly nurtured the flame of their musical heritage. Painstakingly means it was done with immense care and effort. They kept it alive through thick and thin. So, for Nabeen to choose a Western instrument, it wasn't just him picking up a different hobby. To his father, it felt like abandoning generations of painstaking, careful effort.
Hearing Leela lay out this history, it completely opens Nabeen's eyes. He suddenly realizes he was letting his own baseless fears cloud his judgment. He totally forgot that he, too, had to work his fingers to the bone to prove the worth of his chosen instrument. So he drops this beautiful line. After all, each bay, its own wind. I trust you, Shruti, and I will root for your group at the concert. It's just this incredible, heartwarming moment of reconciliation. It perfectly bridges the gap between traditional values and modern expression. Now, let's wrap this explainer up with the core themes explored and what this all means. This play just masterfully weaves together some really deep concepts. First, we have tradition versus modernity, right? We see that clearly in Nabeen's classical ragas versus Shruti's fusion orchestra. Second, there's that heavy conflict of duty to family versus personal passion. Shruti respects her dad deeply, but she desperately needs to play her own music. Third, we witness the generational evolution of art. It proves that what's considered rebellious in one generation, like Nabeen's violin, literally becomes the tradition of the next. And finally, it celebrates the uniqueness of an artist's journey, showing us that every single artist has to find their own voice. Before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder, directly inspired by Shruti's journey. How does your own passion contrast with the traditions of previous generations in your family? Whether it's the music you jam out to, the career you're aiming for, or the hobbies you spend your weekends on, remember that, just like Shruti and Nabeen, it is entirely possible to honor your roots while still charting your own unique, modern path. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer of Twin Melodies, and keep exploring those fascinating stories.